Jerry Brown's ranch, which has been in his family for 150 years, and when he left the governorship, he wanted to move back. I had the privilege of working for him for almost 10 years as a senior advisor, both when he was the California Attorney General and then when he was governor. I was very lucky to be able to work with him. My last name is Rechtschaffen, very hard to say unless you know how to say it, and it means do right or make right. Schaffen means make or do, Recht is right. It's a wonderful name. It's a window into my heritage. I grew up in New York. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. I was there till I was a young adult. I came to the West Coast after law school, and I've been living in Oakland since 1989. That's my home. I love the city of Oakland. Well, my dad grew up in Germany. He's a Holocaust survivor. He and his family were forced to flee the Nazis in 1937, and they walked across the border to Holland and were able to come to America. My mom was born in the US. Her parents left Russia to escape the pogroms, and then my parents spent the rest of their lives in New York City. There's a strong cultural tradition among Jews for working for the underdog, for working on social justice, and that certainly infused my parents and their work and the way they raised my sister and me. They also valued life and were very grateful for the privileges that they had, that they lived in a place where they were free from fear and want, and I think that helped me really understand how grateful I am and how lucky I am. Because their lives were precarious, they appreciated so much and had so much gratitude for life, and they wanted to make sure that others shared in those values and benefit. In 1994, I had the great privilege of going to South Africa as an international election observer for the first democratic elections in South Africa. And this is a picture of the ballot, the historic ballot. This is a sign from when I was sworn into the California Public Utilities Commission by Governor Brown. Oh, it was a wonderful moment because having gotten the nomination from Governor Brown and the vote of confidence from him that I could do this really challenging job was a wonderful experience, and to be there with my family was terrific. These are some of the books I've actually written. This is a environmental justice casebook, the first major environmental justice casebook written mostly for law students. It was used in undergraduate students in undergraduate courses as well. But there was nothing quite like this as a casebook to use in courses in law schools. In 1993, I started teaching environmental law at Golden Gate Law School. I also felt, having practiced before I became a law professor, that it was critically important to train students in actual practice before they graduated. And I co-founded in 1993 Golden Gate's Environmental Law and Justice Clinic. The focus of that clinic was representing underserved communities on environmental and public health matters. So it was a natural for me to work on that type of law to advance both social justice and environmental protection. It's also a great area to practice in California. California passed a law saying that 25% of revenues generated by our cap and trade program had to be spent in or benefit disadvantaged communities. That number's since gone to 35% or maybe even 40% under some definitions. Other states have followed, and it became an accepted best practice nationally for clean energy policies. It's very easy when you sit in public policy positions to feel like you have a sort of monopoly on expertise or wisdom. And I think in California, especially over the past couple of decades, we've made a really important and pronounced effort to do this, to solicit the views of people who are traditionally underrepresented, for whom the political and legal processes haven't worked, if we want to be successful, if we want to advance a just outcome, we have to be more conscious and explicit about designing programs to benefit underrepresented communities.
What stood out? What do you remember about him?
Well, I remember that Ken Alex said he needed Cliff to do whatever he was going to do. And I said, why can't you do it yourself? He said, well, I need Cliff. He knows how to do things that I can't do. So that's where Cliff showed up. He's a quiet, effective environmental lawyer who's a good guy and doesn't get carried away with some of the enthusiasms that you find in politics. He was suited because he worked with me. He knows about the environment. The PUC is a legal institution promulgating regulations, and so he had that experience, and that was very important because the PUC is this bureaucratic machine that deals with incredible complexity and detail, but also has decisions that have big political ramifications. Cliff is intelligent, well-educated, gets along with people, gets to the nub of the problem, and all those qualities are not that common. I guess I would have to say uniquely equipped for the role.
Now that there's stations everywhere, the battery prices are...
Climate, to most minds, is abstract. And Cliff, I think, closes that gap between the generality of the climate problem and the specific steps that have to be taken to get at it.
To the next generation, I would say, be bold. Our window is short. You need to act with urgency and imagination, and use whatever authorities you have, whatever platforms you have, use to the maximum extent possible. And don't underestimate the impact of everything you do, of smaller seeming victories. They all matter a great deal.